Together?
Yeah.
All right. Three, two, one,
go.
Welcome to the back talk or the back chat with the back doctor. I'm your host, Dr. Ross, and with me I have the one and only, the lovely, wonderful, amazing Dr. Angus.
Keep going. Thank you.
Stunning, English accent, intelligent, wise, knowledgeable.
My goodness.
A great adjuster, a great chiropractor, a great dad. Should I keep going?
Yeah.
Now you're putting me on the spot.
Please do.
A great husband.
I don't get this at home.
A great
Keep it going.
I was like, that's it. No more. I praised you enough. I don't want your head to get too
That's
big.
right. Got to leave through the door.
So today is all about back to school. Okay, and really getting parents all ready up for their kids, making sure that they're the best they can be, getting into school, getting into the new year of 2024. So Dr. Angus, before we jump into that, I would like you to talk a bit about yourself and what really brought you into, chiropractic and doing what you do.
Absolutely. Yeah, sure. So I went to the Anglo-European College of Chiropractic in England. That was back in the mid-90s. Feels a long time ago. But what brought me into chiropractic was really just an appreciation for the natural world. Just really being brought up in the countryside and being shown how the real world, the natural world works. That really set me on a journey to appreciating and wanting to work with Mother Nature, the innate intelligence, the power that built the body heals the body. And chiropractic seemed the obvious choice at that point. So, yeah, that's how I ended up here.
I was going to say, just thinking about it now, you're well nicely dressed, like a beautiful Englishman would be dressed.
Indeed.
And here I am dressed as green Christmas,
There you go.
as Aussie as it gets.
It's the Aussie summer uniform, Christmas uniform.
Yes, just shows the beautiful contrast. I love it.
Yeah.
So good. Please continue. Talk a bit about, I've met your lovely wife, Shafika, and met your two boys as well, Phoenix and Aston. And what's it like being a dad?
It's full on. It's full on, as any parent will testify to. It's a complete change of life to even just being a couple, a complete reprioritization of values and activities and everything, but I love it. Plenty of stress, but wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, it must be a whole different experience when you have life in front of you that you helped bring into the world. So
That's right, and looking to shape the best way that you know how, which is not always easy, and there's always regrets and things that you do better. But we all do our best as parents. Yeah,
I always sense a bit of pain behind that, bit of happiness, but also a bit of pain behind those voices.
indeed.
One thing is, we're going to talk about school, and you have, like I mentioned before, you have two boys. How old are they now?
So the youngest one is 7, and the older boy is 11. It feels like 2.5 minutes ago since they were that big, but here we are.
Crazy.
A decade has flown by. Yeah.
So I guess my first question is, do you get your kids adjusted? Do you get them looked after?
Absolutely. The kids come in every Monday, along with my wife. They make the effort of driving 20 minutes to be here, so they get adjusted regularly. And the reason for that is that I've seen what happens to spines that don't get well adjusted. So we see the consequences of that every day, and it's sometimes so bad, clinically speaking, that it's upsetting. So the one thing that we can do is to make sure that the next generation is as well prepared and looked after as possible.
And when you say we see how bad people's spines can get, we're talking not just in children, right? We're talking how the effects from childhood lead into young adulthood to later adulthood to middle age.
Absolutely. I mean, all the cases that we suck our teeth and shake our heads to in private, they all started off as small problems, as mild problems, as moderate problems in early life, in childhood, in babyhood, So the more that we can address those now, then we're really changing the life trajectory of that person just with some simple work, simple adjustments.
I could probably bring a whole textbook and just boom, smack it here on the table, and we'll have to go through all the list of issues. But I'd rather we keep it concise for this episode and really keep it for kids. So what sort of common spinal health issues would you see with like younger children, growing up into being adults?
Yeah, so there's obviously the general aches and pains that we get from doing the wrong thing or being in the wrong posture or the wrong position. There is also that mythical growing pains, which I've never seen adequately described in any medical textbook or chiropractic textbook. I think there's a reason for, a functional or a dysfunctional reason for every pain. And classifying it just as growing pains is a bit lazy, clinically speaking. Yeah.
If you can't define, it's not to put a bad term behind it, but it's like, my child's growing up, so he's got aches and pains. Why? He's growing up. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't click.
That's right.
There must be a reason why the pain's starting to form.
Absolutely.
Can I throw an analogy at you?
Please do. Love analogies.
Oh, beautiful. So, we love our plants. We love growing plants. And you know how there's certain plants that people get like a stick and they wrap around so the plant grows nice and tall and straight? Because if it's left to its own devices, with nature, winds, it goes crooked. And that sort of plant can be broken a lot quicker compared to something that grows up nice and straight and tall.
Perfect analogy. And how easy is it to spend 2 minutes in the garden with a stick and a piece of wire compared to trying to reshape a mighty oak that has spent 2, 3, 5 decades growing? It's nearly impossible. It takes a year or two or 18 months if you're phase 2.
Love it.
So the sooner we can straighten these little twigs and create strong, healthy, vibrant trees, the better.
Oh, beautiful.
It's 1,000 times cheaper as well.
What else? Other than growing pains, what else do you notice? What do you see?
Well, there are some classics such as scoliosis, and obviously scoliosis develops late childhood. So that's something that is very much approachable from a chiropractic perspective.
Yeah.
A lot of medical doctors, even the orthopedic types, find themselves a little bit lost when it comes to scoliosis care. The only real solution they can offer is some incredibly invasive top to bottom surgery with introducing rods and screws and wires, which unfortunately does not allow the spine to adapt or to grow very well, and typically leads to an even worse clinical outcome in middle life.
You could talk about how you can cut up a 15, 14, 13-year-old girl, put a rod in when she hasn't fully grown up yet. We don't know the implications in 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years.
Absolutely.
And how that's going to affect them.
Absolutely. Because one thing we have to bear in mind is that with children and even young adults, their bones are still growing. There's something called a growth plate, and that is the part of the bone that is expanding a little bit like an ice crystal to meet all the other parts of the bone and creating one solid bone. So there's a lot of opportunity for shift and change and restructuring that spine, restructuring that bone for optimal alignment, and getting a much happier outcome.
Yeah. And you can always talk about the way you look as well. For kids, if they're not in perfect symmetry, or if they're hunched, they're curved, that can cause a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. Something I see a lot now is a lot more depression in younger kids.
Absolutely. I mean, let's face it. This world, since maybe when you grew up, and certainly when I grew up, is a lot more stressful. So anxiety problems and depressive problems, issues are definitely more prevalent and common these days. But one thing we have to remember is that all these issues, they reside within and come from the nervous system. And by de-stressing the nervous system through chiropractic care, it just means that those kids have more capacity and ability to take on the inevitable stresses and strains of 2024 and beyond with less consequences, with less poor outcomes.
And that's the inside change, right? The nervous system that sits within, comes in from the inside, and as a factor of that, posture changes as well. So, I can speak for younger girls, who love to take selfies, take photos, group photos. Making sure they have good posture is really important to them.
Right.
So, not only are you changing the physical aspect of the nervous system, the posture, but you're also changing the mindset. And reducing that anxiety, reducing that stress is such a big thing.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah.
Can I bring up my most favorite topic?
What's that?
Texting, Instagram, text next.
Right.
When you're like this,
Good old
you're like this all the time.
Yeah.
Where's the outdoors?
Outdoors. It's a dangerous place these days, apparently. So, and just to a certain degree, it is far more full of challenges and dangers compared to what it was even just a few decades ago. But it's important to get those kids out into what I call the real world as often as possible and as much as possible for a whole variety of reasons. Yeah.
One thing that I feel like is too much screen time is just taking away too much from the world.
Yeah, you're either doing one thing or the other. Absolutely. And as parents, we know that one of the resources that gets requested upon the most is our time. And if without a big backyard or a backyard at all, it does take time. It does take focus, energy, resources to go to the park, to get the balls out, to go and spend time letting the kids run around and encouraging them to use their body.
So what are some ways that you manage your two boys?
Well,
I don't want to use the word manage, but be an awesome dad, I should say.
yeah, I suppose it always comes down to being the best example that you can be. That's the best way to teach any kid, is to be the best example. So have a family culture that prioritizes outdoor time. Have a family culture that prioritizes beach time, or even down at the swimming pool, or just getting to the park, to a bit of grass and kicking the ball around, whatever, rough and tumble, anything.
Yeah.
So it's all about having those family habits in place, and then the kids just grow up to learn to like that.
Yeah, and if we're parents glued on our phones when the kids are still trying to explore the world, that also sets a different type of example, doesn't it?
It does. And we have to remember that kids, they're growing. It's actually physical activity. It's that low-grade, medium-grade stress to the bones that actually stimulates calcium deposition and bone growth and bone strength, as well as ligament strength and muscular strength. So we have that quite finite window of opportunity to actually encourage our kids and their bodies to be strong, to be resilient, for later in life.
Allow them to grow healthy and stronger, have a better life in the future as well.
That's right.
So let's get into the main topic of today, which is school. Right? We're sending our kids to school so they can get the best education, so they can learn more about the world, learn about maths. I'm 30 years old and I still can't do maths.
I thought you were going to say you loved it. Okay.
Oh, no, it's too hard.
So we all have calculators these days. That's no problem.
One thing I remember is backpacks, textbooks, and now it's like packing with laptops and all these other things, iPads, and kids wear heavy backpacks.
Yeah.
So what are some ways to help navigate that?
Yeah. So three rules that I always come back to in regards to backpacks and the kids' backpacks. Number one is the size. Just like ladies' handbags, the bigger it is, the more stuff's going to go in, the heavier it's going to get. So if you restrict or limit the size of the bag for the size of the kid, because very often you do see bags that are almost the same size as the kid, then that obviously limits their ability to damage their spine with an excessively weighted backpack. Okay. So number two is positioning. Okay. Backpacks are designed for two arms. Wearing it on two arms is what we need to be encouraging our kids to do. We also need to make sure that the shoulder straps are fairly tight so that the backpack is residing at the upper part of the back and not down at the low back. Otherwise it'll pull backwards.
Yep.
Okay. And then the third thing is to make sure that all the heavy stuff, the books and things, are down at the base or at the back of the backpack, so that they're as close to the centre of gravity as possible.
Yeah, so closer to the body is better. And one thing I do remember actually is carrying my handbag on one side.
Yep.
And then I used to wonder why my shoulder's always higher compared to my other side. It's because, hey, you got all this additional weight of heavy stuff, and then that causes your whole spine to shift and compensate as a result of that. And you do that for 10 years?
10, 12 years.
12 years, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a micro trauma that we speak about that is exposed to the spine on a day in, day out basis, that over time will gently warp the spine into a subluxated, into a compromised position.
Yeah, and it never caused any problems until, you grow up and become an adult.
That's it. So that easy. Keep it small, keep it well fitted, and load it with the heavy stuff down at the bottom.
Thank you. I guess another thing that we can really focus on is, habits. Just general day-to-day habits for kids. What are some good habits that, parents can teach their kids so they can start to implement?
Sure, and again, all habits and training kids to do habits comes down to an example. Just try and set the best example ourselves. But specifically, we need to be adopting and using good, healthy posture for ourselves. So instead of slouching on the couch diagonally, show them how to sit up. If they're not sitting up, just gently show them, introduce a cushion to their low back.
Like this.
And that's right.
Writing my notes. Oh, have you seen these ones? Have you seen any? Have you boys ever done that when they're riding?
Yes.
45.
Yes. Yeah, because at that age they're so focused on getting it right, and it's still I suppose it's like when we learn to drive. It's all very new to them, so 100% focused. So obviously be compassionate with them, but just help encourage that upright posture. I mean, when it comes to homework and studying and reading, it's important to actually provide an ergonomic setup where they can succeed, where they can prevail, rather than having them on the couch or on their bed. And it's just lazy. Okay, it's not difficult to buy a $100 desk, maximum $200 mini office chair from Officeworks. It's not expensive to set them up and preserve their spine in that regard.
Really good. Yeah, I have so many people talking to me now about expensive chairs. You got the office chairs, and you got the gaming chairs now. There's like a whole divide. I can talk to you about. Basically, these chairs they range from like a couple $100 to freaking over $1,000. And I go, at the end of the day, you're not designed to be sitting all day. So you just need a good enough chair that can get you through that sitting period, and you still get up, you do your stretch, you create the good habits.
Yeah.
And you don't have to spend $1,000 chair to sit 24 hours. No need to do that.
Yep. Like I say, even a $100, $200 chair, if you use it properly, you're still going to get 90+% of the benefits of the several $1,000 chairs.
Exactly.
So get that 90% and roll with it.
So let's talk about probably the biggest thing that's becoming an epidemic now, or I should say pandemic, apologies, is screen use.
Screen use.
Set up, screen use, because I can see, young, we're talking 4 years old, 3 years old kids who have been crawling, looking up, developing a nice curvature of the neck, now just being glued to iPads as soon as they get the chance, or, young school kids, just jumping into a laptop. And we're not using the laptop at the moment, by the way, but this setup here is too low. So we'll be looking down and typing. So, keeping all those screens up high. So what are some ways that we can help educate and teach?
Absolutely. And listen, as parents know, screens and screen times are the absolute uncontrollable bane of every parent's existence. It's a new phenomenon that has leapt into our parenting lives and had a huge impact, not just physically, but also, mentally. You're shaping kids' brains to need that stimulation several times a second to actually maintain their focus and interest, which is why all these games and movies seem to be 1,000 miles an hour as opposed to movies even a couple of decades ago. So yeah, screen time is a huge deal, and it's important to get it right. We're never going to get it 100% right, but to keep that pressure on improving things is good.
Yeah.
So, in regards to screen time, number one, we need to be limiting it. We do need to be limiting it. Again, no judgment on any parent that's using it at any time, because there are times and places for its use, and there are times and places to break those rules and use it to get through the minute. However, providing a situation or a setup where kids can again succeed in looking after their posture is really important. So one rule that we have at home for myself and my kids is that they have to sit up in a good posture to use the screens. Okay, so they're either in a beanbag with cushions on their knees, or they're sitting on the couch with 2 cushions on their knees. And if they've got iPad or Switch on their knees, they know it gets taken away. Okay, and it's as simple as that. I know that creates aggro in the moment, but I'll tell you what, they only make that mistake once or twice, and then guess what? It's a habit.
Yeah, because you can play. You can play Nintendo Switch. Is it Fortnite they're playing? Yeah, most popular at the moment.
Yes.
So
Minecraft,
all that. So you can still play the game you want to play, but now you just got to have good posture while doing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Varying posture is important as well, because that's one of the benefits of exercise, is the varied posture, the varied use. You're not stuck in any one position. You're using all different aspects and positions of your body. With gaming, obviously, you're in one position, whatever it might be, for hours and hours on end, very often. So my last point on that note is it's very easy to be in a flexed position gaming. So introduce some extension, and the easiest way to do that is have kids on their belly, on the floor. Ideally not on the bed, because the bed sags and gives you too much extension, but on the couch, on the floor, it's absolutely fine to be on their belly, on their elbows, and that way they're looking upwards.
That's pretty good. Yeah, right. I like that.
So there's very few problems to the spine that comes from looking upwards too much, but every kind of problem that we see is magnified by downward flexion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's shift topics a bit and let's talk a bit about nutrition. Right. It's a whole broad park, but if there was like a couple key points that you would want parents to include in how they provide food for their kids, how they cook, whatever it may be, what are some key things that parents should include in like a child's development?
Yep. So there are different levels of nutrition. I mean, it's a vast topic, but we have to remember that essential fatty acids are called essential because you die if you don't get them. Okay? So essential means essential. That's a scientific term, essential. So making sure that kids have appropriate essential fatty acids, which these days does typically require supplementation. Okay? Most of the normal, typical sources of essential fatty acids are mass-produced, farmed at such a speed that they don't develop and retain the essential fatty acids.
Yeah.
So looking for some form of oils, fish oils, even the kiddies ones, although they're very, very low dose, is a good way to introduce those into the diet. And obviously good old vitamin D. These days we're taught to slip, slap, slop and cover up. We get very little sunlight to our skin. We're designed as human beings to be running around naked in the sun all day long, so we get very, very little vitamin D compared to what we actually need and what we actually would appreciate to thrive fully.
Makes sense.
So again, supplementation is so cheap with vitamin D. Liquid is the best form. So if you can find a liquid vitamin D supplement, then that's by far the best.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay.
Well, I think we're getting close to the end of the podcast, but I think one thing I want to talk a bit more about is, chiropractic care with kids and how does that work? Because, is it the same with adults, or is it completely different?
Same approach. We're looking to decompress, de-irritate, de-stress that nervous system so they can develop and grow fully, and also structurally as aligned as possible. But what we do obviously is apply corrections that are far more in line and suitable for small and young bodies. So that means basically much less force and more gentle adjustments.
What's the good example that we usually use? Was it the eyeball pressure?
Yeah. So the amount of pressure that you can comfortably exert onto your eye.
Yeah, that's
eyeball,
usually about pretty much it.
right? Just a few grams is typically all we'll use for babies, newborns, and babies. As kids get older and a bit more weight bearing and the ligaments develop, then we'll typically use very light manual adjustments, or very often the clicker, the activator.
Yeah.
The kids love that. I think it's a bit of a tickle.
Anything to help just move those bones, remove those subluxations and realign.
That's right.
The body.
Get things back in alignment. Yeah. But they still go through the same thorough examination. And if we do identify a problem, we may even request an X-ray so we can see exactly what the problem is there.
Yeah. Really good. And I guess when it comes to preventative measures for kids, it's very different to adult prevention as well.
Well, prevention is all about being proactive. So get them under chiropractic care, get them brought up to date with any neglect that has happened within their spine, and then proactively get them on some kind of checkup schedule so that those small problems that inevitably accrue, they get dealt with and minimized before they build up into these, as we said, these big issues that we see later in life.
Yes.
That at that point are difficult to correct, if not impossible to correct.
One example that I'd like to share is I have a 2 centimeter short leg on my left leg, and basically my hip is always dropping on one side compared to the other. But that's as a result because when I was playing football in my teenage years, I had many injuries, many kicks and sides here. So my growth plate unfortunately finished growing a lot earlier than the other side.
Right.
So I've got this structural short leg due to all that stress from childhood. Now, how that impacts me as an adult is I need to wear a heel lift to balance myself out. Otherwise, my spine is going to be curving.
Yes.
To compensate.
Yeah.
And that's going to cause a whole lot of issues in terms of back pain, shoulders, posture, and this is the type of prevention that you can do for kids, getting them checked, x-rayed, make sure there is no structural changes to make sure that they can grow up as healthy as they can be.
Absolutely. So just think if we'd have caught that at the age of 5 years old or 10 years old.
Yeah, wish my parents knew about chiropractic back then.
Well, that's why we're here. That's our job, is to let people know that which they don't know.
Love it. Did you have any final closing advice for everyone watching this beautiful episode?
Sure. Keep those kids moving. Keep those kids active. By default, they're going to get enough sedentary time, school time, studying time, screen time. So push them out the house, buy them the equipment, give them every opportunity to get outside, and do what I do because I'm in the know, and that's get them adjusted, get them checked on a very regular basis. We want the next generation to be as healthy, fit, and happy as possible.
Always.
Yeah.
Dr. Angus?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Anytime.
I look forward to having you on the show again.
Let's do it.
Beautiful. Thank you.